What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Until the Bell, where we rate each and every UFC fighter performance on each and every UFC card. This week we're going to be breaking down UFC 319, rating each and every performance 1 through 10. But before we start, here are just my notes and criteria of what I'm rating, what I'm looking for. So go ahead and pause the video to check that out. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it. In our first fight, we saw Joseph Morales defeat Alibi Idris via round 2 triangle choke, and what a performance from Morales. He was coming in here as the big underdog, and he was able to come in here, pull off the huge upset. He had been in the UFC before, had some losses, including to Figgy, so no shame in that loss, but he came back hungrier, and he looked great in this fight, and yeah, I'm super happy for him. As for Alibi, not the best performance. He's going to need to come back stronger and, go back to the drawing board a little bit, but he's still young. He still has some time to improve. This is only his first loss, so I really do think that he will be back. And, yeah, I'm sad we didn't get the other Ultimate Fighter finale, but I do believe that they just threw it on another card. But, yeah, shout out to Joseph Morales, Ultimate Fighter champion. And he ends the night with a 8.5 out of 10 performance rating. And with the strength of opponent, that brings his overall rating to a 7.25 out of 10. As for Alibi, he had a 3 out of 10 pure performance rating. Not his best night in the office, against a 6 out of 10 strength of opponent, bringing his overall rating to a 4.5 out of 10 overall. Our next fight saw a somewhat controversial decision where Karine Silva was able to defeat Dione Barbosa via unanimous decision after a really rough start where Silva really got dominated in the first round, but in the next 2 rounds, Barbosa was kind of just laying on top when she could and not really doing much damage or much activity. So Silva was able to steal those last 2 and really squeak out a really tough, controversial win. I do think that maybe it could have gone either way, so that's why neither of these fighters are going to get too high of a rating. So for Karine Silva, I'm going to give her a 6 out of 10. And against a 6 out of 10 opponent, so that's going to bring her overall rating a 6 out of 10 overall. As for Barbosa, 5 out of 10 performance rating, just a little below Silva. 6 out of 10 opponent, 5.5 out of 10 overall rating for Barbosa in that tough, controversial loss. In the third fight of the night, we saw Dricus Close able to defeat the legend himself, Edson Barbosa, via unanimous decision. This was a solid performance from Close, able to do what he needed to do against Barbosa, use the clinch work, and was able to tough out a lot of those nasty leg kicks that Edson was landing. And he was able to squeak out a decision and put on a solid performance. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 pure performance rating against a 7 out of 10 opponent in Barbosa. I think that if this was prime Barbosa, that'd be more like an 8, 9. But now that Barbosa is a little bit older, coming off of a layoff, I can't go higher than a 7. So that's going to bring Dricus Close's overall rating to a 7 out of 10. As for Edson, he was doing some solid work. Those leg kicks were really nasty, but he was pretty much being controlled for most of the fight. And this was against a solid opponent in Close, 7 out of 10. And Close is now 10-3 in the UFC. Solid record in the UFC for Dricus Close. We've seen him have some setbacks where he's been knocked out, but he's always putting on crazy fights, so great performance. We'll definitely have to see him back in there before the end of the year. If that leg's able to heal up, lots of leg kicks, but I think he'll be okay. Awesome performance against a legend. Hate to see Edson aging and looking slower, but he's such a legend. You always got to root for him, but I don't know, maybe it's time to retire, but I don't know. I feel like he could probably beat someone worse than Dricus. It's not like Dricus is some scrub. This next fight was a sad one. I was rooting for Chase Hooper, but unfortunately Alexander Hernandez was able to get the first round KO right before the end of the fight. Right before the end of the round, it was the end of the fight. Yeah, dude. Some people were calling this an early stoppage. I don't think so. I think that was just such a nasty time shot. I see that it was the end of the round, so maybe he could have survived, but man, Hernandez was just looking on point. I'm going to have to give him a 10 out of 10 pure performance rating for that. His footwork was looking beautiful, his speed, his explosiveness, his power obviously. Against a solid 7 out of 10 Chase Hooper. We've seen him on a roll lately, but Alex was able to put a halt to that, so that's going to put him at an 8.5 out of 10 overall rating. As for Chase Hooper, I hate to do it, but it's going to be a 1 out of 10 pure performance rating. I know he'll bounce back from this. It was against a solid opponent in Alexander Hernandez, 7 out of 10 opponent, and that's going to put him, unfortunately, at a pretty low 4 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. Shout out to Alexander Hernandez, dude. When he's on, dude. So this guy's a beast. Our next fight was a fun scrap between Lupi Godinez and Jessica Andrade, where Lupi was ultimately able to get the decision, and I do think that was the correct decision. Both of them had their moments, but I do think that Lupi won the first two, and then Jessica probably took the last one, where she was able to wobble Lupi a little bit. And yeah, fun fight. Both these ladies are badass, and I'm going to give Lupi a 7 out of 10 pure performance rating for that win against a 7 out of 10 strength of opponent. Jessica Andrade, absolute beast. If this was back when Jessica was champ, it'd probably be 10 out of 10. But now that she's aged a little bit, I can't go much higher than a 7 out of 10. She's not been as consistently good as she once was, but that's just how it goes in the sport. But still a great name to have on your resume. So Lupi Godinez, 7 out of 10 overall rating in that win. As for Jessica, I'm still going to give her a 4 out of 10 pure performance rating, which is not bad in the loss. She put on a fun fight, but I do think that ultimately she was the loser in this case. Against a very solid Lupi Godinez, 7 out of 10 strength of opponent. We've seen Lupi go in there, always putting on fun fights, putting on a competitive fights versus every single opponent she faces. So 7 out of 10, and that's going to put Jessica Andrade at a 5.5 out of 10 overall rating for that loss. It was a fun fight, but ultimately the right fighter won in the end, in my opinion. In our next fight, we saw Michael Oleksiejczuk defeat Gerald Meerschaert via round 1 KO. Absolute dominant performance from start to finish. Oleksiejczuk has been looking amazing ever since he went to the Fighting Nerds, and yeah, they're really showing why they're one of the best gyms in the world right now. As for Gerald Meerschaert, not his best performance, unfortunately. Got finished once again, but he's one of those guys where even when he looks bad, he'll randomly come out with a win if he has the right matchup. So I don't know if it's time for him to retire. Maybe, maybe not. That's up to him. As for Michael, though, he is having a nice little streak going. Now he has back-to-back first-round finishes. And I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10 pure performance rating for this first round KO against a 3 out of 10 opponent. I'm sorry, Gerald. I can't go much higher than that. GM 3 out of 10. And that's going to put Michael Oleksiejczuk at a 6.5 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. As for Gerald, unfortunately, 1 out of 10 pure performance rating against a very solid, though, 7 out of 10 opponent. Michael Oleksiejczuk has been looking great lately. He had that run of 3 losses, but ever since he's had those back-to-back first-round knockouts. So 7 out of 10 strength of opponent, which is going to put our man Gerald at a 4 out of 10 overall rating in that unfortunate loss for him. In our next fight, we saw Baisangur Susukarev defeating Eric Nolan via round 2 submission, and this was coming off 4 days' notice off the Contender Series fight. He fought on Tuesday, and then he fought again on Saturday, and he was able to get back-to-back finishes. Absolutely insane. I will say Eric Nolan at least made it a fun fight. It was a fun first round before the second round ultimately saw the fight ending with a submission. So I'm going to put Susukarev at an 8 out of 10 for that pure performance rating. Very solid performance. Had some fun moments and was ultimately able to get the finish. Strength of opponent, I'm going to put 5 out of 10. Eric Nolan, even though this was his debut, he showed that he's a game opponent and he'll put on a fun fight even if he does get finished. So I'm going to put 6.5 out of 10 overall for Susukarev in his UFC debut after that amazing week for him. 2 finishes in 1 week. Not bad at all for the start of your UFC career. As for Eric Nolan, he did put on some, fun moments in that first round, but 4 out of 10 pure performance rating for him against a solid 6 out of 10 opponent in Susukarev. He is pretty unproven still, but he's been looking fantastic as we've seen him. So 6 out of 10 there, and that's going to bring Eric Nolan to a 5 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. In our next fight, we saw a huge upset where Tim Elliott was able to defeat Kai Asakura via round 2 guillotine choke. And wow, dude, Tim Elliott turned back the clock there. He's been around for so long. Absolute veteran of the game. He won the Ultimate Fighter to earn the right to face Demetrius Johnson back in the day. It didn't go his way, but he's never stopped fighting ever since and always putting on good performances, entertaining performances, and occasionally pulling off huge upsets like he did against Kai Asakura. So he's just one of those fighters where he's hard to read. Kai was never able to get a read on him, and ultimately Tim was able to find that finish. So I'm going to put Tim at a 9 out of 10 pure performance rating against a solid 7 out of 10 opponent in Kai Asakura. He still hasn't got a win in the UFC, but I do think he's still a solid opponent. He was a huge underdog, so 7 out of 10 strength of opponent, so which is going to put Tim Elliott at an 8 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. As for Kai, unfortunately, can't go much higher than a 2 out of 10 pure performance rating. And it was against a solid opponent in Tim Elliott, even though he doesn't have the best record in the UFC. I believe he's not even 500. He does have like 20 UFC fights, so to be able to stick around that long, you have to be solid. And Tim Elliott is going to be a 7 out of 10 opponent, and that is going to put Kai Asakura at a 4.5 out of 10 overall rating in that loss. It's crazy. Kai came in with such high expectations. We unfortunately just have not seen him live up to the hype yet. You never know. He could bounce back, but unfortunately it's back-to-back losses for Kai to start his UFC career. But as for Tim Elliott, able to get back in the win column, or should I say 2 wins in a row now after coming off of that win versus Sumu Darji back in 2023 and then having that long layoff. But he's in the win column. What a performance. As we move along the card, our next fight, MVP Michael Venom Page was able to defeat former title challenger Jared Cannonier in typical MVP fashion via unanimous decision after putting on a striking masterclass in 2 out of the 3 rounds. He came out and did his typical MVP, bounce around, find the timing, and then have you lackadaisical, wait for you to not see anything coming, and then right at that moment, he'll come in, crash hard with a nasty 1-2, and he was able to drop Jared, and Jared was able to bounce back a little bit in that 3rd round, had him down on the ground for most of the round, but MVP was able to show off that ground defense and was able to avoid the finish and was able to come out with the well-deserved win. Jared just was a little too late in that last round and was going for the finish but was not able to find it. What a performance from MVP. He's so tricky for these guys to figure out in there, even at the top of the top level. We've seen Jared face the best of the best at 185, and he was not able to figure out MVP. 8 out of 10 pure performance rating for MVP. Amazing performance against a solid 8 out of 10 opponent in Jared Cannonier. This dude is an absolute monster, especially because MVP was moving up in weight. Let's not forget that. So, of course, that's going to put him at an 8 out of 10 overall for that performance. I'm super impressed with MVP, man. He has just been absolutely crushing it ever since he came over. He had that hiccup against Ian Gary, but besides that, man, what a UFC career he has had so far. As for Jared, not his best performance. He almost was able to get something going in that last round, but it was not enough. So I'm going to put him at a 3.5 out of 10 for that pure performance rating against a solid 8 out of 10 opponent in MVP. I was already glazing him a bunch. So that's going to put him at a 6.75 out of 10 overall rating for Jared Cannonier. He put on a solid, valiant effort at the end, but it wasn't enough. MVP with another classic MVP victory in classic MVP fashion. This next fight is really where the crazy shit started happening. Carlos Prates defeats Geoff Neal via round 1 KO with a spinning back elbow. Absolutely beautiful timing, dude. Carlos Prates was really wanting this win after coming off that loss versus Ian Gary, that 5-round decision loss. But he came back in an absolutely insane way and got all of the fans back on his side. This dude's smoking right after the fight. He's the life of the party in and out of the octagon and was able to finish someone who had not been KO'd in his entire run in the UFC. He had been KO'd previously by Kevin Holland back in the regional scene, but since then he had never been KO'd, and Carlos Prates was able to put his lights out with that elbow. What a performance, dude. I'm going to put Carlos Prates at a 10 out of 10 pure performance rating against a solid 7.5 out of 10 opponent in Geoff Neal, which is going to put Carlos Prates at a 8.75 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. What a performance, dude. I'm going to remember that one for a long time. As for Geoff, 1 out of 10 pure performance rating against a solid 8 out of 10 opponent. Carlos Prates is showing time and time again why he is the real deal, especially after that, road bumping the road against Ian Gary. He showed that he can bounce back, he can learn from his mistakes, and what a performance. Geoff Neal, 4.5 out of 10 overall rating for him, though, in that tough loss. And now this is where shit gets even crazier, dude. Lerone Murphy came in as an underdog. No idea how he was an underdog, dude. We may or may not have, benefited off of those lines because I don't know what Vegas was thinking with those lines. Shout out to Lerone Murphy putting on a show as the underdog against the debuting Aaron Pico. We've seen Pico in Bellator put on some good performances, but we have seen him get knocked out before, and that happened again. And it was another spinning back elbow, back-to-back spinning back elbow, first-round knockouts. Lerone Murphy easily gets the 10 out of 10 pure performance rating. And against a solid 7 out of 10 opponent, I don't want to roast Aaron Pico too hard. He is a very solid offensive fighter. I think maybe his chin is just his downfall. So that's going to put Lerone Murphy at an 8.5 out of 10 for his overall rating. As for Aaron Pico, I'm not going to give him a 1. I'm going to give him a 2 out of 10 because, hey, dude, he did have some good moments early on, but he got way over eager and Lerone made him pay. And that was a nasty knockout. He was out cold for a while. They said they couldn't even get out the mouth guard. He was biting it still. Man, that is not how you want to make your UFC debut. And honestly, dude, everyone's happy that these Bellator fighters are losing. Oh, the UFC's welcome showing levels. I want there to be more competition from the outside promotions, but right now it's not looking good. The UFC just has such a chokehold on a lot of the top talent where these guys just come in and haven't faced anyone on this level. And unfortunately for Aaron Pico, he was not prepared for someone on the level of Lerone Murphy. I have no idea how Lerone Murphy was an underdog. He's undefeated in the UFC. And so MVP shows that he's the only Bellator guy that can consistently get these wins in the UFC. It's so weird. But it makes sense if you really think about it. UFC just has that huge hold on all the top talent, so it's tough to come in and adjust. But, man, what a crazy performance from Lerone Murphy. What a fight. And it was finally time for our main event after those 2 crazy back-to-back spinning back elbow KOs in the first round. And this one, unfortunately, we did not see as much damage inflicted. We did not see any finishes. However, what we did see was Khamzat completely and utterly school Dricus in terms of wrestling, dude. It was pretty much 25 minutes of Khamzat controlling Dricus, kneeing him in the back of the leg, hitting him with these, not too damaging of shots, but when you do it 500 times, it adds up over time. And Dricus was just looking helpless out there. I will say I do think that Khamzat probably could have finished it. I don't know if it was just he didn't want to risk being finished or was just wanting to get that 5-round experience in the bag. But I do think that Khamzat could have maybe left first gear and, pushed for that finish. But I do think that ultimately it was a good game plan to just, put Dricus where he's a fish out of water and could not do anything against him. I will say Dricus did show some heart in the 5th and final round. He did have a nice reversal and was able to land a little bit on Khamzat, but it was really pretty much too little too late there, and absolute dominance from Khamzat. A lot of people are giving him a hard time, me included, honestly. I do think that he could have, finished him, but with that being said, it's not his fault that Dricus wasn't putting himself in much risk either. So both guys were pretty much happy where they were at, where Dricus was like, I don't want to get finished, and Khamzat was like, well, I'm happy to just hold you here if you're just going to stay there. So it was not the most entertaining fight, in my opinion. It was a very dominant fight, but In terms of entertainment value, definitely not my favorite fight, but the time finally came where Khamzat is finally the champion. All of the hype, all of the speculation, will he become champion? He's definitely going to become champion. Then it kind of became, oh, is he going to become healthy enough to become champion? And he finally did, and man, what an amazing performance. Not the most entertaining, like I said, but amazing performance. The one thing I will say is I think he could have got the finish. That is why I'm going to put pure performance rating 9 out of 10. I can't go 10 out of 10 because I think he could have pushed himself a little more and got the finish. But it was against a 10 out of 10 opponent in Dricus, because Dricus was coming in undefeated in the UFC, was defeating everybody, looking great. And Khamzat made him look terrible. So I'm going to put Khamzat at a 9.5 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. That is actually our highest ever recorded rating in the history of the channel. So shout out to Khamzat. Absolute dominant performance against a champion that had been undefeated in the UFC. So that performance is definitely going down in the history books. As for Dricus, it's probably going to be going down for all the wrong reasons, because that was a 1 out of 10 pure performance rating. It was against a 10 out of 10 opponent because Khamzat is just that good. He's an absolute beast, which is going to put Dricus at a 5.5 out of 10 overall rating for that loss. Really getting carried by the fact that it was against Khamzat, but it really doesn't get much worse than that in terms of pure performances. Dricus just did absolutely nothing. Khamzat was just able to do whatever he wanted besides get the finish. But yeah, dude, absolutely insane dominance from Khamzat. Will anyone be able to stop him? I'm not too sure. There is some fun contenders on the come up. We saw Fluffy Hernandez put on an absolutely amazing performance. We've seen Reiner de Ridder defeat Robert Whittaker in his last fight. Werner of Cairo Barhalio and Nassourdine Imavov could put up a better fight, I think. So, there's some fun matchups to be made. So I'm excited to see what happens next in that middleweight division. But before I let you guys go, here is the power rankings of the entire card, top to bottom. Who did the best and who did the worst? Our highest rated was a 9.5 with Khamzat Chimaev, and our lowest rated was Chase Hooper and Gerald Meerschaik with 4 out of 10. Overall, though, this card was super fun. The main event was a little more boring than I expected, but it was still a really dominant showing from Khamzat, and just the start of his reign, most likely. So that is going to do it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and consider subscribing, hit the bell. And if you guys disagreed with my ratings, no worries, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And thank you guys so much. And I will see you guys after the next UFC event, where I will be here once again rating each and every UFC fighter performance 1 through 10, so do not miss it.